At 3 a.m. we woke up to visit a temple by the sea. I could hear the waves and walked down 100 steps in the dark to reach them. It probably unfolds like this here every day, but I don't think I've ever seen a more beautiful sunrise. It's the kind of experience that makes me want to pick up a camera and relive it all, to capture something so simple that I'll always be grateful for. Hi, I'm Ling and I'm turning my whole apartment into a home art studio. I'd really love to share the biggest art project that I've ever started, which is capturing and drawing small moments from my own life. Each one is based on an experience or a photo that I've taken, and I think they're all really good reminders of how much beauty we can see if we slow down and find stillness. I'm only at the very start of drawing this collection, but it's also involved keeping a lifelong journal and starting to capture everything with photography and filming. I'd really love to share the whole process as I go, and I think the best thing about starting something is that it can only grow. So if we go back to the very start, this really began with a gift that my grandpa gave me when I was born. This journal goes for 100 years and it has space for every single month of my life. If I can hope to live to 100, it means we're about a third of the way through now. My grandpa got this when I was born and my parents helped to fill it in when I was young. It's so strange to look back on because I can see so many important moments written in, like my first morning or the night I said my first word. And when I was a kid, I really recorded things that felt like big events and achievements. But looking at it as an adult now, I really value all of the time in between. I don't relate to a lot of traditional milestones, and if I'm being completely honest, my only real goal or purpose right now is to appreciate life as much as possible. I think that's come from taking a traditional path before and feeling quite lost while I was on it. When I was burnt out and in a corporate job that I didn't enjoy, I used to feel really torn about how I was spending the majority of my time. Journaling has helped to make changes more easily, and it's given weight to a decision to make the most out of life. After I made a lot of big changes, I realized that I've only ever felt unsure about things that I did without questioning. And I've actually never questioned any of the decisions that I started making for myself. I was halfway through editing this video when I saw something by the artist Hilma af Klint. She said, "Only for those prepared to leave the familiar life behind will emerge in a new gown of continually expanding beauty and perfection. But in order to achieve such a state, it is necessary to achieve stillness." On our first trip back to China together, Jace and I also started writing in a different kind of journal. Our friends gave us this notebook and we used it to make a list of memories that we never want to forget. It's kind of like keeping a gratitude journal, and the more you use it, the more easily it comes. We ended up spending every afternoon here with the journal, writing about so many memories of mountain lakes, a morning after a meteor shower, autumn on the Lee River, the day we swam with whales, and a sunrise from a temple by the sea. A few years ago, we picked up a camera and started capturing moments like this. Ever since we took our first photos, I've always known that I wanted to draw or paint them one day too. I wanted to chat a bit more about the process of taking photos and filming, and I think the first thing to mention is that I never really know what we're going to see anywhere. I don't have a particular shot list, and when we travel, I never really have a specific photo or scene in mind, and I really think that most things can't be predicted anyway. There are so many moments, especially in nature, that just have to unfold in their own time, and I feel like if I have the camera with me, it really helps me to take more of those moments in, and I started seeing new details every time. Jason and I both started photography from that feeling where we were really just excited to pick up a camera and try to capture the things that we were seeing. So we first started shooting a few years ago when we were traveling with a second-hand DSLR camera, and I would say that we had absolutely no idea how to use it. I didn't know anything about settings, even things like focus, so a lot of the photos from that time are really blurry. I might take some of these photos differently now, but I really loved that we were able to capture those memories, and I think we did start to get a really good idea of the type of composition that we liked. The main thing was really being able to capture the scale of natural landscapes. I also think that starting photography is so interesting because you can really see how much you learn quickly and easily compare how your photos change over time. I think you can really see a difference between the photos that we took when we first picked up a camera and these photos which were taken only 1 year later. We also just loved the process of shooting together so much, and I think our photography developed really quickly at that time because it was just such a low pressure and relaxed way to learn anything. And over time, photography kind of became second nature. But I've also never felt like the camera has gotten in the way of anything we're experiencing. When we're shooting or filming together, we're really not in any rush. It's kind of the opposite actually, where we really just slow down. If we get the chance, that's actually how I'd spend a whole day. In places like Namibia, we were in our car for around 8 hours on most days. We stopped at every single point to watch wildlife from the windows and filmed anything that took our eye. It was the dry season and all of the animals were walking to find water. We followed huge herds across the salt pan and met them at any of the remaining waterholes. As different animals interacted with each other, new rules seemed to form. Everyone moved out of the way when elephants arrived to bathe, and elephants stood guard when lions arrived to drink. At first, we were so focused on the behaviors of the herds, but we started using the camera to see each animal individually, and every now and then they would look back. To be honest, if I didn't have a camera with me here, I don't think I'd ever be able to explain what I'd seen. And on days like this, I have absolutely no concept of time. I'm just watching life itself. I saw a few questions on my last videos about the type of camera that we're using, and everything that we've shared has been taken with the Sony A7 range. So we have the A7 III and A7 IV, and they're both really good for photos and videos. The main reason we shoot with this is because it's a mirrorless camera and it has a really light body. It's actually perfect for traveling with because we spend so much time outdoors and hiking. Photography has also become part of our job, and we have a lot of different clients and projects now. So we have started collecting a few different lenses, but there is one that I could probably use for absolutely everything. It's a 24 to 105mm lens, which gives a really big range, and we've been able to use it for pretty much everything from portraits to landscape photography and events. And I also use it now to film all of these videos. I don't think the gear that you start with is the most important thing, and it's probably more helpful to just spend as much time as you can experimenting with whatever you have. But I hope that's been helpful to answer some questions about how we've captured everything so far. The thing about starting to take more photos is that you might end up with a lot of photos. Even though everything we're taking is digital, I've always loved printing them out. It started slowly with a few photos at a time, but we already have around 1,000 in these albums now, and they give me so much inspiration for art as well. So the albums and paper that I'm using for this project are all a huge part of it. I found these photo albums from a paper store in Melbourne called KILN, and they're so beautiful. They've all been hand bound and hand painted with the most intricate silk screens on the cover. These prints were also inspired by Japanese kimono fabrics. I try to get one album for every year and keep the photos organized that way, and it's so nice to just keep it on the coffee table and be able to have people look at it anytime they're around. After making these photo books for a while, I also found out that KILN makes blank albums which don't have the photo sleeves inside, and as soon as I saw them, I knew they would be perfect for a sketchbook. So I decided to get two to start with. The first one has this really cute crane pattern on the front, and all of these are also silk screened by hand, so they have the most beautiful details, including this gold foiling on the covers. The second one is more of a landscape, but it also has a beautiful gold print with flowers. And these make the perfect sketchbooks. They have the most beautiful binding and hardcover, and they also open flat onto really wide pages with a thick texture. I think that starting this project was made a lot easier when I found these, because it really gave me an idea for how I could display my drawings, and honestly every decision I've made since I started has revolved around these albums. I even cut my paper to size just to fit this book. So I was originally going to have 4 photos on each spread in this book, but unfortunately the pencil is already transferring onto the opposite paper, so I've decided to just space it out and keep it to 2 drawings on every page. But even with that extra space, each book actually fits around 30 drawings, and I've already finished a few of them, so maybe I can start by showing you the very first one. It's of a photo that I took of Jace in a lake in Slovenia, and it was just taken on my phone. This was a long time before we started photography or filming, so I don't have any footage of the process behind doing this drawing, but I do remember at the time that it was taken, I clearly thought to myself that I would love to draw or paint it one day. So I think I've always known that when I started making things again, this would be the first scene that I drew. I also have a few other finished drawings, but I can't decide which one I want to go next to this one, so I'm just kind of keeping the first page blank for now, but maybe I can show you some of the options. I'm thinking of putting in one with a similar color palette, like this one has a lot of greens and blues, But I also don't want it to be so similar and consistent that the individual landscape gets lost, so I'm not quite sure about it yet. I also want the front page to have a moment that's really significant and important, but the more I look at all of these, the more I feel like each one is just as important in the scheme of our life. I'm looking at the colours and the scene, but each one also has so much behind it that you don't really see just from the image itself. This one is based on a photo that we asked my sister to take. We were cycling around Aitutaki at sunset, and I absolutely love how she captured it. I've also really loved drawing it, but one thing that you don't see from this drawing is that we were actually able to swim with whales that day, and it was just the most unforgettable and incredible experience. I would actually really love to do a whole series on my channel about each one of these drawings, so if you'd like to subscribe, I'm really looking forward to sharing the whole story behind each one. I'm also starting to think that this day at the lake was so relaxed, and maybe the first page should have something really dramatic next to it as well. So I'm thinking about putting a drawing of the day that we hiked to Mirador Base de los Torres in Patagonia. This was the very first hike that we ever did, and we decided to do it the night before. It's kind of wild to think about now because it's not an easy hike. It's around 25 kilometers, it's very steep, and there are usually huge winds, but it also leads to one of the most breathtaking places in the world. When I look back on this moment after everything that's happened since then, I can actually see how this day changed my life. The first thing is that because it was a challenging hike, a lot of other things suddenly seemed possible. We started spending a lot more time outside and going a bit further every day. The other thing is that we went without any expectations. I'm not saying that you shouldn't plan ahead, especially for a long trail, but I still think that the most rewarding experiences come from going somewhere without any set ideas about what it will be like. This moment also really changed our photography. The photo is out of focus, and we actually asked someone at the peak to take this shot for us because we didn't have a tripod yet. But we could show them what we had in mind, and I feel like we both knew how we wanted to capture things from then on. It's also the photo that we used to start our travel blog, which has become such an uplifting part of life. It's just one of those moments that I will always look back on and probably keep remembering in new ways. One day I had the idea to start a small drawing, and it's quickly turned into a whole collection. Maybe it's a common experience for everyone who wants to spend time on creative things, but if I enjoy doing something, it seems like there will never really be enough time for it, even if it's something completely new. It's kind of strange to look at things that you didn't do just a few months ago and to realize that they're now things that you always want to do. I've only finished a few of these so far, but I've loved the process so much, and there are so many moments that I still want to draw. I really love the idea of artists making hundreds of artworks in a similar style, like 100 famous views of Edo or 100 aspects of the moon, and I'm really excited for this to be a collection that I keep creating. I can already see it turning into something like 1,000 moments that I never want to forget. At the start of this album, I'll probably write a list of those memories, of mountain lakes, a morning after a meteor shower, autumn on the Lee River, the day we swam with whales, sunset in the hills of Busan, and a sunrise from a temple by the sea. And I will eventually draw all of it. I started writing the date and place under each drawing. I think it's nice to be able to see where it sits in time, but it also really doesn't matter exactly when or where these photos were taken, because moments like these are always unfolding and I just want to take any chance to stop and watch them. If you've watched this, thank you so much for spending time here. It would be great if you could subscribe to this channel for more videos and art, but in the meantime, I hope it's just been a really good place to slow down.